Now that we have our page set up, let's go ahead and lay out this design. So we know our cover is on the right, the back cover is on the left. I'm going to take these text boxes and I'm going to move them out of my way. So I'm going to slide this up. I also need to move this blue box up a little bit because it's too big and it's hanging onto my page. So let me just pull that up. Again, I'm going to push this one up as well. And to shrink the size of this box, I'm just going to go to this middle little square here. I'll zoom in just in case you can't see that too well. So there's a middle little square right here. And I'm going to grab it and I'm going to pull it up. There we go. And as I pull that up, you notice that the box got smaller. Okay, so normally when I start with my design, I always start with the background first. That's just how I operate. All right, so I'm going to make a frame. The frame will hold the space where our picture will be. I usually go with the background first just because it gives me the inspiration and kind of like a springboard for the rest of my design. So now that I got my frame set up, my picture frame, I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Place. And then I'm just going to add my background. So I named it Cover just so I'll know which one is which. I'm hitting Open. And there's my picture. So notice that the picture is significantly smaller than the page, right? So I'm going to go to my black arrow. And when I put my mouse over the frame, you'll see this circle that pops up in the center. I need to go to the center of that circle in that little light gray part. I'm going to right click and this menu pops up. So when I get the menu, I'm going to go to Fitting. So Fitting allows me to size this picture in a multitude of ways. Now what I want to do is I need this picture, aka the content, to fill this entire frame. So I need to go to, they have fill frame proportionally. I don't really need to do that. What I wanted to do is fit the entire frame. So I'm going to fit content to frame. There you go. So when you fit content to frame, it stretches it a little bit, but in this case, because it's just the sky and grass, it's a little abstract, it doesn't really matter. If this was a picture of a person, I would not dare fit to frame because then you stretch people's faces, people get angry. We don't need that. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to open up my layers palette. So layers are over here on the right. This is what they look like. And let's say your layers palette is not on the right. You can go up to Window, because remember, Window is like Walmart. Everything's under the Windows menu. I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to go down to Layer, and then it pops up anyway. All right, so on this Layers panel, I want to lock this layer. The reason why I'm going to lock this layer is so that when I start adding other elements, my background doesn't move, because you never want your background shifting around. It's just annoying and it gets confusing. So I'm going to zoom in on this area just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So you see the eyeball. We know the eyeball will cut on the layers view or cut off the layers view. So again, the eyeball helps you to view or not view. All right. So the square right next to that empty square, if I click it, a padlock shows up. That padlock lets you know that this layer is now locked. So I'll do that one more time. This little square here, I'm going to click it, and that padlock will pop up, and that locks our layer. So now we don't have to worry about it going anywhere. So no matter what I do, no matter how many times I click, I absolutely cannot move this layer. So the next thing I need to do is I need to make a new layer. So to do that, it's on the same palette. I'm going to zoom in again. There it is. It's right next to that little trash can. So the trash can, we know, is to delete something, right? We want to delete a layer. So right next to it is how you create a new layer. So I'm going to hit it. I call it a notepad because it reminds me of like Post-it notes or something. I'm going to click that icon and look what happened. We got a new layer. So now we have layer 2. All right, so we're going to be doing our design in layer 2. I'll cut my zoom off. All right, so the first thing I would do probably is add a title. So to do that, I need my text tool. My text tool is over here on the T type tools right there. So I'm going to click that type tool. And I'm just going to make a text box because remember, we need a box in order to type. So I'm going to drag my box maybe about here. That's good. And so since my restaurant is golf themed, I named mine the Green. I thought that was appropriate. So the green. Okay. So now the next thing we need to do, let's razzle and dazzle this type a little bit. There's two ways we can do this. So the first way is I can simply highlight my text. You make sure you're still on the T for text. I'm going to highlight that text and I can come up here to the top. I'll hit my zoom real quick. I'm going to come up here to the top and notice it's like Microsoft Word a little bit, right? They have the different fonts you can select. They have the size of the fonts, that type of thing. Okay. Another thing we can do is we can go up to Window, because remember, Window is like Walmart. So I can go to Window. I'm going to scroll all the way down to Type in Tables. And then I'm going to go over to Character. So I'll do that again without the zoom on. So we can go up here. Oh, my text isn't highlighted anymore. Let me go back and highlight that. We can go up here to the top where it's like Microsoft Word style, where they have a bunch of different fonts and options for us to use. I can go over here and change the size, or I can not use this part and I can go to Window. I can go down to Type in Tables. I can go over to Character, and our character palette pops up. Now, I prefer the character palette just because I can float it, I can move it around, I can put it where I want to put it, so I usually use the character palette. But you can do whatever one works best for you. All right, so my character palette is here. I'm going to click it. I think I'm going to use this particular font, so I'll click there. Okay, it's much too small, so the next thing we need to do is make a bigger size. Now remember our two places. I can go up here where it says 12 point and I can change it to a different size, or I can go over here onto my character panel. So I'm going to use my character panel, and instead of 12 point, let's see what 72 looks like. 72 is big but not big enough. So if you notice, the preset numbers only go up to 72. However, we can type in whatever number we want. So I'll type in 100. And I'll zoom in on that too so you guys can see a little better. I just typed in 100 right here in this first box. All right, and notice my type got bigger. Another thing I can do with this is, and now that I'm at 100, if I wanted 101, all I have to do is hit the up button. It makes it a little bigger, 102, and I can just keep tapping until I get it where I want it. I think that's pretty good. So 118 worked for this particular instance. Okay, I'm cutting zoom off. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to change the color because it's black and I don't think I want it black. So I'm going to highlight that text again. Let me highlight it, keep it highlighted. And I'm going to add a little color to this. So I'm going to go to, again, we got two options. My color, I can use swatches. It's on this side right here. I'll click it for you. Or I can go up to Window. I can go to Color. And then I have three options: color, gradient, or swatches. I'm sorry, color, gradient, or swatches. So color, because it's black, it just shows you that it's black. So that's not too impressive at this point. Gradient, I would never use for a title just because it gets hard to read in some spots. So I'm just going to go with swatches for now. And I like this blue at the bottom. So I'm going to click here. I like that. Okay. So I got my blue. Let me see what that looks like. Okay, that's coming along nicely. So the next thing I want to do is I think I'm going to add a drop shadow to this text just because it's the title and I want it to stand out. So I'm going to, I have it highlighted. I'm going to go to my move tool, to my black arrow. I'm going to right click on it. And instead of going to fitting like we normally do, I'm going to go to effects. So effects is right underneath fitting. So effects, you have a couple of them. You can make it transparent, like a little see-through. You can add a drop shadow. You can do a bevel and emboss. You can do all these different things. I, however, am going to do a drop shadow. Okay, I like the drop shadow, but to me, I don't like how far the shadow is from the word. So I'm going to push that shadow up just a little closer to give it the look that I desire. All right, so the first thing I want to do whenever I'm in the effects window, I always make sure this preview button is checked. If the preview button is not checked, I'll show you what happens. If the preview button is not checked, you don't get to see what you're doing. So if I add a style, if I add a backdrop, I can't even see what the backdrop looks like until I press OK. And that's a ridiculous way to work. So we want to add preview so we can see the changes in real time as we make them. Okay, So now that I'm in this drop shadow, I got a couple of options. I can change the color of my drop shadow if I wanted to one of these colors. I'm going to keep mine black. And so now I need to mess with these X and Y coordinates. I want it a little closer, so I'm going to push the down arrow on this. And then I'm going to hit the down arrow on this one. I think I like that a lot better. I'll zoom in too just for the sake of. So here I am, X offset and Y offset, and I just hit the little down arrow key. The down arrow brings the drop shadow closer. The up arrow pushes the drop shadow farther away. All right, so I'm gonna hit OK on that. That's good, we're looking good. Okay, so I'm gonna save, because that's what I do. I'm a big saver. So from here, my title looks great, my background's in, I'm gonna hit save. Okay, the next thing I want to do is let's add some images. Let's have a little fun now. So I'm going to go to my black arrow. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Place. And I'm going to place, I guess I'll place this bacon cheeseburger. I got a picture of a bacon cheeseburger. And I'm going to tap right here and place it. All right. I did not add a box for this one because the burger, I knew it was kind of small. You know, so I didn't go ahead and add a frame. I could have added a frame though, if I wanted to. Notice that my picture has no background. We talked about in a previous class about PNG images, images that have transparent backgrounds. If you don't know how to get a PNG image, watch one of my very first videos and it'll show you how. It's the one where we talk about searching for images on Google. All right, so I got this background with, I got this hamburger with no background. And I think I'm going to, should I make it a little, no, I think I'm gonna leave it giant. I think I'm gonna put a giant burger on this cover. I'm going to rotate this a bit. Yeah, just a little bit. And so just so you guys know, to rotate, I'm gonna zoom in for this. At the corner of every box, there are these little square handles. These little square handles. And so if you notice, my cursor changes. Instead of being this black arrow, when I get close to that, it turns into that little double-headed arrow. You see that difference? The double-headed arrow? When I get to that double-headed arrow, it allows me to rotate. So I'm going to rotate a little bit this way. I think that's cool. Okay, and then I'm going to press OK or Enter, and that'll apply my selection. Okay, I like my big giant burger. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a big giant milkshake to go with this big giant burger. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Place. I got a milkshake. Oh, actually it's a sundae. I'm going to add my sundae. Uh-oh, see what I did there? So because this box was selected, it added my sundae right on top of my burger. And we don't need that. So I'm going to show you the correct way to do it. So I'm going to go to Edit, Undo, Replace. So remember, when you do things like this, you never want to do it inside that box or mayhem will occur. All right, so now that that box wasn't selected, the sundae was able to come in on its own. Now this sundae is huge. So what we're going to do is we're going to dial this back a bit, which means we're going to resize it a little bit. I think I want to resize this hamburger a little bit too. So to resize it, I'm just going to go to the corner again, but this time, and I'll zoom in so you guys can see this. This time I'm going to do something a little different. So instead of going to the arc, that little double arrow, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to get right on top of the square and it turns into a straight arrow. So here's the arc, here's that diagonal arrow, straight, the curved one, the diagonal. So with the diagonal arrow, I can resize this box. So I think here's good. I'm going to cut my zoom off so you guys can see the full image. I think about there is a good size. Let me see what the bottom of this sundae is looking like. I'll probably go to this corner and pull this in a little bit. Okay, so that box is a good size. Now you see the importance of a frame. Had I put a frame here, I could have made the box the size I wanted it to be, and I wouldn't be doing any of this right now. But it's good to show you guys both ways because some people love frames. Some people don't want to use frames. They feel like frames is an extra step. So you know both ways. You can add a picture with a frame or without a frame. You'll know what to do either way. So I'm back to my circle. I'm going to right click in the middle of that circle. I'm going to go to Fitting. And this time, we don't want to fit content to frame. We need to fit this content proportionally. The reason why is I don't want a super stretched Sunday. I don't want my Sunday super wide or my Sunday super scrunched up and smashed. So we need to fit this content proportionally because it's a picture of an item. So if it's a picture of an item or a person, you definitely, most definitely want to be careful about how you fit that content in there. Okay. So now I want to make my burger just a tiny bit smaller, not too much smaller, but just a little bit. I want it big because I want to be dramatic. So I'm going to pull in one of the sides just a little bit. And then same thing. I'm going to go to the circle. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to fitting. And remember, we need to fit content proportionally. All right. Boom. Okay, that looks great. The next thing I think I'm going to add is I think I'm going to add a plate of fries. And I think I'm going to add them somewhere over here. So let me use a frame this time just to make sure I kind of nail it. So I think I'm going to put my fries here. Yeah, maybe that's a good place for fries. Okay. And so let me go to my black arrow. I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Place. And let me place my French fries. I'm going to hit Open. There's my fries. So my fries are giant. All right. So I'm going to go back to that circle. So you notice there's a lot of repetition. I'm going to go to Fitting. And then again, we need to do it proportionally because this is a picture of an item. So I want to fit content proportionally. There we go. So we got a nice big plate of fries, sundae, and we got a cheeseburger. I'm going to move my sundae over a little bit. I'm using the arrow keys on my keyboard to move it just the tiniest bit. Okay. I like what I got so far. I'll probably put a tagline or some kind of slogan up here later. But for now, this is a great place to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to layers. I'm going to lock this layer because we don't want to mess this up. So I'm going to hit the lock. Boom, it's locked. And now we're going to go down here. We're going to make a new layer. And I want to save. I want to save right now because my cover is looking pretty decent. I'm going to save. And it's something I don't want to do again. So I always hit save. If it's something you don't want to do twice, make sure you save it. Okay, so this part is done. Our cover is done. We got the exterior cover done. So this is the front, this is the back. I'll add maybe a catchphrase or a slogan here, and then like please come again or thank you for your business on the back. I might even add some food items on the back. I don't know yet. Okay, so let's go down to the inside. So this is going to be our inside spread, and you're literally going to do the same thing you did at the top. Okay, first thing, inside, I want to move it up, but I cannot because it's locked. So let me go to layer 1 because that's where it is. If you're unsure about where it is, we can always click that eyeball. The eyeball will show us. Yep, it's definitely in layer 1. Okay, so I'm in layer 1. I'm going to click it now because it's unlocked, and I'm going to slide this up. All right, so we're good with that. Okay. I'm going to lock layer 1 back because we don't want any problems. So we're operating in layer 3 at this time. So layer 3 is going to be our inside pages. Okay. First thing I want to do, as always, is add my background, right? So I'm going to click a frame. I'm dragging this frame across the whole entire page. Okay. So now the frame, the picture that I chose for this background is a sky, just because it's abstract. It's not going to take away from my text at all. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Place. And then I need to find my sky. So because the sky is abstract, when I go to fitting, I don't have to fit it to content. I can fit it. I'm sorry, I don't have to fit it proportionally. I can just fit my content to frame because I want it to fill up the entire frame. So here I go, fit content to frame. Everything's full. From corner to corner is full. From the top corner to the bottom opposite corner is full. Okay, we're perfect. So you know me. Let's lock layer 3. All right, so this background is perfect. It's nailed down. It's not going anywhere. So we're going to hit another new layer. And then in layer 4, this is where our design is going to be. So you can also name these layers if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. So for example, layer 3, I can just click on the word layer 3. This box pops up. I'll zoom in just to give you guys a closer look. So layer 3, this box pops up and I can name it inside or inside background. There you go. Press enter and it's done. So in something this small, I don't know if I would if I would label my layers. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It just depends. But if it helps you to keep yourself organized and stop you from getting confused, I think it is worth labeling. The next thing we need to do from here is I would add my text. So let me show you how to add text. Cool part about text is you can place it just like you place a picture. So what I never do, I never just place text. I always, 100% of the time put a text frame down. Always. I always got a frame. All right, so I'm in layer 4. Let me click layer 4. And then I'm going to put a picture frame just so my text knows where I want it to go. So I'm going to put it here. If you don't put the frame down, you will regret it because that text will go everywhere. It will spill all across the page and you will be highly upset and you'll have way more work to do than if you had to just put a simple frame down. So I got my frame. I'm going to go to my black arrow. I always go to the black arrow. It's just like my go-to. I'm going to go to place. And then I can just select my text file. So I'm going to do menu items.doc, my Microsoft Word document, and I'm going to hit open. So now here we are. So now we have all the things from our menu. So what I'm going to do, because we have so much space, that's the beautiful part about having a tabloid piece of paper, I'm going to spread this text out. So I'm going to make another text box. I'm sorry, not another text box, another frame. I'm going to make another frame and I'm going to cut half of this text. So let's start from entrees down. I'm going to cut half of it. I highlighted it with my type tool using that T. I'm going to go to edit, cut, and then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go to edit, paste. There we go. So now I got half and half. Okay. So now we can work. So I'm going to come back over here. I don't like these spaces and gaps. So I'm going to hit my backspace key, bring that closer. Do the same thing here. Bring this closer. And I'm going to hit the backspace again, bring that closer. Okay, cool. Now, first thing I noticed is that the text is right on top of each other, and I don't like that. I want to give it a little space, similar to how you would double space or single space in Microsoft Word, same type of deal. So I'm going to be on my type tool. You have to be on your type tool to manipulate any type. I'm going to click at the top of appetizer, and I'm going to drag all the way down to the bottom. Got it. So now all my type is highlighted. On my character panel over here, I need to go right back to the character panel. I want to increase the space between these words, which happens right here. It's called leading. We talked about leading before. It's right here. So right now it's set to 14.4 for mine. I'm going to zoom in real quick just so you can take a closer look. So I'm on my character panel and it is right here. It's set to 14.4. I am going to click this drop down menu here. And let's see my other options. I got all these options. I can also type in my own, but let's just start with like 24 point. Let's just see what that looks like. 24 points decent, actually. I'm not mad at that. So I'll tell you what I will do. I'm going to keep it at 24 because I like it. From here, I would just call out my titles. So what I mean by call out my titles is I would bold them, I would add color, I will make them bigger, I would change the font so they look different than the rest of them. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do one. I'm going to start with appetizers. So for my appetizer, I'm going to use the same font that I used on the cover. Give it a uniform look. I also am going to use the same color. So we had a blue. Let's go over to color. I don't see my color. So what am I going to do? You can go up to window. You can go to colors. You can go to color, gradient, or swatches if you don't see it. Now, if you do see it, my swatches are right here. I'll just click it from the side. I'm going to go down to that same blue. And there you have it. So I got blue. I'm going to spread it out a little bit too because this font size looks a little tight to me. So to add space between letters, I want to go right underneath leading. And let me zoom in because that's worth noting. So here's where our leading is, like our double space, single space type situation. And this box will let us put space between letters. That's called tracking. So I'm going to hit the plus arrow and just go up a little bit and watch how my letters space out. Oh, that's cool. I think that's good. Okay, I'll cut my zoom off. So that looks pretty decent. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to change the size. So we know that we can change the size of a letter here, and we can also change the size of a letter on our character panel. So I'm going to work with my character panel, and I'm going to try 18. 18 actually looks pretty good. Let's see what 24 looks like. Okay, I'm going to go with 24. All right, I'm going to hit my black arrow really quick. And so from here, I would definitely give another save. So this is a good base point to stop at. I would just add more pictures, not too many, but I just add just a couple here and there, you know, maybe some of my signature dishes just to fill up the page and make the design look really nice. I will also call out the rest of the titles. My menu is centered, yours does not have to be. Just play around with it and see what you come up with. I'm going to stop the video here, and then I will see you guys in the next video.